And we are back into game number 2 draft. Cam, are you ready to see what the adjustments, what these teams are going to do going into game 2 to figure out what the advantage is? Because again, you predicted a 2-1. You didn't pick a side, but you did predict a 2-1. I believe you called No Fear Wolves in game number 1, so you might have jinxed them. You might have jinxed the Holy Pack, which is saddening for me, but looks like the picks and bans are coming through. Zinzao and Silas for the side of Fever, and Zaya for the side of No Fear Wolves.
Yes, so in this game we will have Fever on blue side this game and No Fear Wolves on red, and then game 3 they will be swapping back with No Fear Wolves on blue once again. So we do have some of these bans coming out. Volibear was once again banned again. That's Zinzao. Now that Karma being added as well. So I guess they did find that Karma pick very annoying, especially to draft against, just because she is that triple flex pick.
Yeah, the triple flexibility just going to be taking it away. It is going to be interesting to see how they kind of switch up now going into picks and bans for game number 2, because they are going to be swapping sides. Obviously, it looks like No Fear Wolves are going to be just sticking with the same idea for the Volibear, the Zaya, and the Tristana ban. Fever is going to be able to first pick that Viego, so that's going to be exciting to see. But No Fear Wolves are kind of going with a spicier response here, locking the Sejuani and kind of figuring out what they want to do. I got baited by the Yasuo pick.
I did too.
What I'm excited to see, because No Fear Wolves might be kind of switching it up, but it's going to be exciting to see what they want to switch to. Is this a bait? Okay, it's a bait. I'm so sad. I wanted to see Koglu, but we are just going to be getting the Aphelios, the 200 years experience in game number 2.
Yes, and of course Aphelios buffed, sort of nerfed last patch, and then actually buffed today. So he is definitely going to be interesting to see if he has actually found a spot for himself in the meta, as I'm yet to see if he's very strong. Yes, he's good if he has his Shuriken gun up. I'm not quite sure. I think it's Chakram, right? If he does have that one up, then I do believe that he is probably going to be very strong, but every other gun I don't think is nearly as powerful.
So I love this counter pick from Fever, because they are going to take the Thresh, which is really good for Rights, but they're taking the Trundle, which has been a long-term standing pick in the jungle as a counter to the Sejuani, because Sejuani procs her Aftershock plus her passive. Trundle presses ulti, and Sejuani becomes literally a 0 armor, 0 MR tank. So it's an incredibly strong counter pick. Anytime Sejuani's in the meta, Trundle will rise up, and it is a champion that kind of synergizes with what Zagi likes to do. He does play the early game style, but he doesn't usually play champs like the Zinzao, so kind of Trundle being able to kind of force his way into that early game to be strong. No Fear Wolves is sticking with the Frost comp, picking the Braum. Sejuani Braum is one of my favorite picks for Clash, because if you've ever played Clash, you just CC them forever. You just put as many slows and stuns as possible, so it's going to be synergizing really well with the Aphelios, kind of being able to save this hyper carry from a lot of this dive that Viego, Trundle, and whatever they end up picking in the mid lane are going to offer for the side of Fever.
I am definitely thinking, yes, they can, or Sejuani and Braum both can slow you forever and probably stun you as well, but I'm definitely thinking both of them, if not just one of them, could be building that new item where, I again still don't know the name of it, the one that makes you sad, I think. Definitely
sad
could be
item.
very strong on both of them, as if you are attaching that to Viego or whatever other carry that they pick on B4 and B5 here, could be very strong for No Fear Wolves here in game 2.
No,
That's a bait.
I'm getting baited. I'm just gonna get baited. I'm just gonna talk about the Aphelios. It's a champion we haven't seen in the meta. It kind of has fallen to the wayside when the Kai'Sa Tristana meta came up. Right now, there are a little bit more stronger hyper carries like the Kog Lulu, like the Jinx as well. But Aphelios is still one of those hyper carries. I feel like, though, if you want to play Aphelios, in a lot of situations you can just play Jinx. Aphelios does just offer a little bit more CC, so it's kind of a trade-off in terms of damage and range with Jinx, and Aphelios, who offers a little bit less damage and range but with a little bit more CC. No Fear Wolves is going to lock in that Azir for the mid lane. I would have liked if they got the top lane counter pick, or sorry, they got the mid lane counter pick, because Azir can be kind of exploited, but I think they're just assuming Viego is going to be in that mid lane role. Fever is going to take away the Ezreal. A really strong pick, and now we're going to be seeing the Stubby special with this Cho'Gath being hovered. I am afraid for Cornstar in the top lane.
I mean, we got to see him absolutely smash last game on the Orn, but Cho'Gath into Quinn definitely could be very rough for him, as that is not going to be that same tank versus tank. I mean, we're 90% sure that is just going to be a bait. It's going to be another tank matchup.
Okay. I'm getting baited so hard right now. I don't even want to talk about. Mr. Yorick?
Shovelman?
Mr. No! I can't believe it. I cry out in pain as the Fiora is locked in by Cornstar in that top lane. They finally baited me fully. I thought Shovelman was coming, and I thought the Gates was coming. I thought Hellbreaker was finally gonna see the light of day, but we are just gonna see the Fiora being locked in. A great counter pick for the side of Cornstar on the top lane, who did kind of get abused by Stubby in laning phase and just in terms of overall team-wide kind of play. So I'm excited to see what that mismatch can do. I'm excited to see how these comps work out, but just looking at it just front to back, what are the lanes that you want to see being focused in game number 2, both for Fever and No Fear Wolves, Cam?
Looking at Fever's comp, you are definitely going to be focusing around that Ezreal and probably that Viego as well, but I would actually say more around the Ezreal. It is actually interesting that they did pick both of these champions to be their main damage sources. Both of them were nerfed today, so it is interesting to see how they will be impacted by those, especially in this game, as you are playing into 2 tanks and then the classic Fiora-Cho'Gath matchup where Fiora is supposed to be the counter to Cho'Gath, but I mean, we have seen it quite a few times where Cho'Gath, you build that Everfrost and she just really can't touch you, and Everfrost also being buffed today could definitely impact that as well. But as for specific matchups, I'm definitely going to be looking towards that bot lane for Ezreal versus Aphelios. I do believe if either one of them, maybe not being the strongest ADCs currently in the meta, but they can both definitely deal that damage that both of these teams need, as they're definitely lacking damage in other roles.
Yeah, the damage profile for both teams is kind of skewered around that bot lane. No Fear Wolves does have a little bit more damage spread, with Azir being such a good control mage against a lot of these comps. Like Fever, their comp doesn't have a lot of initiation. It's a lot about like maybe Cho'Gath ult Q lands, maybe Thresh Q lands. Otherwise, they kind of have to run into and get flanks or just force the team fight. So Azir does have a lot of good zone control and has a lot of that scaling damage. Fiora will be kind of that split pushing, hoping that she can find a flank. So No Fear Wolves, I think the damage wise is a little bit more spread out. For the side of Fever though, I think that it is kind of centered around this Ezreal pick getting strong, because we have seen that Viegos can build squishy, but it seems like in terms of just now that we've seen more and more matches of Viego, a lot more of that tanky build is taking over. Divine Sunder has been a really strong item on him, as well as Sterix going second. So I'm excited to see what Fever do in terms of their damage profile, but it is going to be excited to see what this bot lane matchup is. In terms of a lane I want to focus on is going to be this mid lane matchup, the Viego versus Azir. How do you feel about that matchup, Ken? And like, what are your thoughts in terms of going from game number 1 into game number 2? We kind of saw a lull in the mid lane. It was a lot more about farming and kind of scaling up. This is not about that. This is about like, let's kind of try to team fight for Azir, or let's try to just blow up the backline for Viego.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, both of them you could argue is just blowing up the backline. If he is able to get that Azir shuffle into the backline, I mean, that could be absolutely game changing depending on how many members he is able to find with that. So it is probably going to be, I don't want to say extreme fighting pre-6, but then once we do get that level 6 and then jungle intervention, probably support intervention as well with both of these tanky roaming supports, could be a lot of fighting around mid lane. As we did get to see a little bit of that mid lane or game 1, but it was much more centered around dragons. So game 2, it is probably going to be a lot more centered around this mid lane and probably also dragons as well.
So in terms of overall scaling though, who would you give the advantage to? Because I feel like you can kind of swing it both. Okay, we're just going with the Azir.
Azir like, way outscales Viego.
It definitely outscales, but in terms of just overall team comp, because again, Zongi on this Trundle pick, when he steals those stats from Sejuani, is going to be so incredibly tanky that even if Azir is like crossing soldiers, crossing beams, crossing streams, that is a 300 armor and a Magic Resist Trundle running at you, trying to pillar you, and at a certain point, you just have to kind of dip out because Azir does fight in that mid-range zone, similar to like the Victor, and so he's not going to be able to play so far back that he's not going to be in threat of Trundle and this Cho'Gath. So in terms of overall scaling, in terms of team-wise, who do you give the advantage to?
I I actually really just like No Fury Wolves comp much more, as they do have that tank shred in Fiora and a little bit in Aphelios as well. Whereas Fever, yes, you are able to take Sejuani's passive from Viego, but you can only take it if you can kill her. And with the comp that Fever has set up currently, it looks very hard to be able to kill her.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be difficult, especially if Zongi does get to a slow start. We have seen that, especially in the early game. Zongi does try to be aggressive and try to make plays, but if you try to be incredibly aggressive and the plays don't end up working out, the jungle pathing in terms of the camp cycling can kind of fall by the wayside. So I'm excited to see what Zongi does in terms of balancing one or the other. I think it's gonna be a really explosive game. I'm excited to see what No Fear Wolves does respond with, because again, game number 1, Cornstar had a pretty rough game 1. He was getting bullied out, he was getting zoned out. Anytime he walked into the team fight, it felt like he was just getting blown up. This is his chance for redemption. He's being given the Fiora matchup. It's like, here, Cornstar, this is you. This is your redemption tour. I want to see what he does with it. And what are your thoughts? Is he going to be able to pull it out? What are your predictions for game number 2?
Oh, well, I mean, I kind of already said I do prefer No Fear Wolves comp here, just because they have the tank shredding and they have that more DPS sustained damage that is a lot easier to hit than Ezreal Q's and Viego sometimes being able to get in and sometimes not being able to. So I do think No Fear Wolves, again, could be taking game 2, but again, they could definitely prove me wrong in Fever taking a 2-0 in this series so far.
I will also say I want to see it 1-1 going to game 3, that hype for the second seed. So I will give it to No Fear Wolves. I think Cornstar will have a good game. I'm excited to see Cute Raichu's Azir. It is the 3rd time it's being played for Cute Raichu. He does have a 100% win rate with 2 games. It is going to be the first time we're going to see Providence on that Viego matchup. It's going to be a battle in the mid lane, a battle in the top lane, and I'm so excited to hear Mac Dewey and Icarus bless our ears with another fantastic call in game number 2. But we will be right back with you guys. Do not go anywhere, because in 35 seconds, we'll have game number 2 ready, booted up, and right in your eyes. See you later.
Hello, Summoners. Welcome on to the Rift for game number 2 of this Block 3 series. 2 of the top teams competing here on stream for Week 8 of Excellency's Mid-League. Icarus, game number 1 was really close between both of these teams. No Fear Wolves using their draft, getting a little ahead in the early game, but Fever able to bring it back. And now here in game 2, Rice Every Meal back on the Thresh, and I'm looking to see some more hooks come out.
Yeah, and really what it was is you saw a couple of objectives being controlled by No Fear Wolves, especially those couple of early dragons going over in their favor, but they weren't winning their lanes necessarily. They were falling behind in golden versus the likes of that Ornn versus that Kale that want to be getting items, that want to be going towards those higher levels as the game progresses. Them not being shut down and punished throughout the early game is really unfortunate for the hands of No Fear Wolves. They eventually fall off in just damage in comparison to those picks, because you can't kill an Ornn, and then the Kale with the Divine Judgment and the amount of AoE damage she was bringing, just too much here. I am super excited for this game, however, though, because we have completely different lineups coming in from both teams.
Absolutely.
Here. It's going to be really exciting to see how these compositions play out.
We've got Epic Fail Guy and Jushbox on a completely different look for the bot lane. Evil Zara picking up the Ezreal that we saw Epic Fail Guy try to pilot in game number 1. But I'm going to be honest with you, Icarus, the Divine Sunderer nerfs that we saw come in, I believe it was today with this latest patch, look to really limit that Ezreal damage later on.
Yeah, and you know, there's a lot of people that are like, oh, ranged Divine Sunder nerfs is really bad for everyone, but really it's just a directed at Ezreal. I guess maybe... No, there's not really anyone else. Like, Gangplank is still considered melee because his auto attacks are melee based, so he even still benefits from it very heavily. Really, the only champion that it's hitting really hard is this Ezreal, but that's because of how oppressive it's been over the past couple of weeks since those Divine Sunderer buffs have been coming in. So I am curious to see how this Ezreal versus Aphelios matchup is going to come in, because we also have to keep in mind 11.13 just dropped today, and Aphelios did receive some scaling buffs as well towards his AD increases on level up, towards his lethality level up as well. So a potential lot to happen there, or there's potential for a lot of extra base stats to be applied for Epic Fail guys, just natural stats, and I'm actually really curious what he's going to be optimizing towards as this game progresses.
We do see some other interesting lane matchups across the map. Cute Raichu going up against Providence in what is yet another tail in Providence trying to play melee mid lanes in the early game against Cute Raichu. It's proven a little tough, but yet again, Providence proven he can make it work a little bit, even in CS so far. And if game number 1 was any indication, Fever know how to play with these strong solo laners. Stubby doing a really solid job in game number 1 as well on this Cho'Gath that he's really succeeded with in the past. Providence going to be just fine after that Skiz gank.
I'm really curious to see how this game is going to play out, MacDewey, when you have both of these teams coming at each other with such scaling compositions here. You got the Cho'Gath on top side. The Viego typically does better because he, in the later stages of the game, because he does build a little bit of that AD carry style of itemization here. And then the Ezreal, as well as we're mentioning in the last game, needs that 2-item power spike to really come online here. Looking forward, though, we do have the Azir, you have the Aphelios, you have the Fiora split push potential coming in from the side of No Fear Wolves, and I think this game is much closer in terms of hyper scaling potential.
Oh yeah.
Now you were talking about MacDewey, so these late game fights aren't going to be the same super one-sided ultra scaling that we saw last game. There is potential for much more even team fights to come out here.
Yeah, and Rice Every Meal particularly, I mentioned him at the start of this match, but he was the key catalyst in that first game, landing hook after hook. Epic Fail guy, it was like he had a magnet on him, and he really struggled with positioning and kind of getting caught out in those late team fights, and it really helped Fever to really push ahead in that game to get the Dragon stacking in their favor. So far, 5 minutes, Dragon just now spawning a much closer bot lane between Epic Fail Guy and Joshbox and Rice and Evil.
Yeah, that's what happens when you don't die to the level 2 cheese from Rice Every Meal. Is typically you're gonna have a better time there on the bottom lane, but that's what you'd like to see here for No Fear Wolves. They're not giving over any kind of early lead here. They're playing the scaling composition that they're known for, and they're going to be giving over a lot of pressure on the bottom side of the map, though, with this reset, which does mean the inside track given to this first Dragon. The same thing we saw last game with No Fear Wolves sneaking away this Dragon on the bottom side reset. This time, it's going to be going over to the hands of Fever.
Picking up an early objective, exactly really what they wanted to do. Stubby later on in the game with his feast, with Zhongy's smite as well. They're going to be looking to quickly pick up these objectives. It's not going to be an Ocean Soul or a Mountain Soul once again. We'll have to see if Fever's lucky with the dice roll. Cloud Soul, not too shabby. Feel like it gets a bad reputation. Infernal Soul, though, I feel like in this situation, Icarus would definitely be ideal.
I think that the two souls that we always like to look at are really the Ocean and Infernal Soul. Mountain Soul's even good a lot of the times. Most people don't like the Wind Soul. I think the Wind Soul is actually fantastic here for the side of No Fear Wolves. It's going to provide a speed boost for this Fiora in the top side of the map. It's going to provide more Glacial Fissures for Skiz, and then you know, everyone just enjoys having the extra bit of move speed and having the increased or the lowered cooldown on their ultimates, especially when you have such large ultimates from your jungle and support duo here in this kind of double frozen composition. I personally love pairing Braum and Sejuani because you just have the beat down the beat down Boulevard style of comp here, where you throw a couple of abilities, you have this Fiora, and you just smack them down and you get double stuns for free with some auto attacks here. I do want to talk a little bit in a second here about some of these champions we haven't gotten a chance to yet, MacDewey, but 7.5 minutes into this game, I'm surprised to see Joshbox has rotated towards the top side of the map in order to get set up for this upcoming Rift Herald.
Yeah, the ADCs left to their own devices. Epic Fail Guy and Evils are just going to be trading back poke a little bit. Epic Fail Guy with a pretty favorable lane position, doesn't have to step too far up. We see both supports rotating back down. Dragon not going to be spawning for quite a little while, Icarus. And so far through the first 8 minutes in this game, the ultimates are online, and Cornstar is going to get us started off in the top lane, burning the flash, looking to go under turret. Flash from Skiz, that's going to connect, and that's going to be first blood. Going over to the No Fear Wolves, but Stubby, he turns it around and trades 1-for-1.
That's so unfortunate for Cornstar. You had your flash too, Fiora. You could have gotten out of that if you really thought about it for a second there. We saw how much damage those 2 turret shots did, but yeah, I'm gonna be real. I was with Cornstar on that one. I thought for sure he was out alive, but very unfortunate that he trades at the end of the day. First blood is picked up by this Fiora, and this is one of those champions I didn't get a chance to talk about yet. But hold on.
The Shurima shuffle, Zhonyi getting thrown all around his own jungle. Skiz is going to be able to finish that one off, Icarus.
Fantastic rotation coming in by Jushbox and Cute Raichu there. They get the shove out in the mid lane. This time around, it is the support of No Fear Wolves that gets the drop on the opponent. He's the one that's first out of lane, and the reward is a kill into the enemy jungler and this Rift Herald that Fever loves to prioritize oh so much.
And this is what was so exciting about the No Fear Wolves roster coming into this season. They switch outfits, Chivalry, they bring in Jushbox, but before we get to that, the Feast is coming in. Cornstar is getting real low. The Rupture, there's the Flash, saving it for the next fight. Immediately going into the bot lane, Icarus, we've got more action. We passed the 8-minute mark. Epic Fail Guy going to be able to flash away, gets hit by the True Shot Barrage. Lantern out. Providence going to be running towards the hills, and just when we thought it was going to be a calm, cool, collected game of mid-lead action, no, we've got fights going all over the place.
Just like that, an eruption, Berserker's Rage, if you will, here coming in from the side of Fever. Suddenly they just blow onto this map and start using everything they can to take these fights here. You made them angry getting that first blood on the top side of the map, and now they want to fight back. However, it's this top side that's going to get punished one more time here.
No flash available for Stubby. Skiz does have the ultimate. Cornstar trying to join, does parry the Rupture here. Now the damage coming in. Stubby, you have no mana, nowhere to run. That's going to be yet another kill going onto this Fiora. Cornstar having a much better game versus game 1. They've placed him on a carry, and it's working.
This is so good, Mac Dewey. I wanted to come back and talk about this Fiora pick, but we just kept having fights happen, so I didn't get a chance to talk about this Fiora pick because I love the Sejuani and Fiora. We talked about the new... Oh my gosh, are they fighting again?
He's got good weapons. Here we go. Epic Fail Guy dishing them out, slicing and dicing. Look at the crescendo. Oh my gosh, 200 years. Don't fight when he's got red and white.
You beat him down when it's early on in this game, Mac Dewey, and that's how you take down Fever. They find another successful gank on the top side. They find a 2-for-0 on the bottom side, and now they're going to pick up this dragon. They're going 1-for-1 apiece. I wonder what soul it's going to be here. It will be the win soul at the end of the day. This is fantastic if you're the side of No Fear Wolves here, because this is going to give you more ultimates for your Sejuani, Braum, and Fiora. This is going to give your Azir more outplay potential, and the movement speed is the biggest thing here because Cornstar has been the recipient of so much jungle pressure. He's going to be looking to play the side lane so hard in this game. I think that should be a disengage coming out here from the bottom side of No Fear Wolves. But to go back to Cornstar, he's working towards that Divine Sunder, perfect item into Cho'Gath. It didn't get nerfed for melees. And Hullbreaker, the item that we've been talking about so far, is going to be the perfect side lane item here for this Fed Fiora to continue to pressure this Cho'Gath and provide so much side lane pressure here for the side of No Fear Wolves.
They are hunting as a pack. They are taking fights in the jungle, right by the wolves. It feels like 2 fights in a row going their way. Skiz on the Sejuani, making it look oh so good, connecting on the stuns, connecting on the ultimates. And once again,
Skiz is
Icarus
back,
looking
baby.
to make a play on the top side of the map. The grand challenge coming through. Perfect execution from Cornstar, able to slice and dice through the Void Monster. 3-in-1 as we hit the 12.5-minute mark.
They are just bullying Stubby so hard on this top side. It was Stubby that had the advantages in game 1 with the solo bolos time and time again on that Ornn versus Scion. And yes, Cornstar is getting a lot of help from Skiz, but this is what you need to be doing when you're going to lock in this Fiora pick on the top side of the map. You need to get towards those first couple of items, especially this Divine Sunder that should be completed on this back here for the side of Cornstar. Once you have that item, you can really start trading into this tank on the top side. You're going to burst him down. He's going to be taking so much percentage health damage, and that's when this Fiora takes over the game. That's when this pick is all worth it. At 3-1-0, a 300 gold bounty, this Fiora, Cornstar, the person who struggled the most in game 1 is looking to take over game 2.
And Stubby evidently just really not used to being ganked so much in the top lane. I feel like midly this is one of the more exciting matches up on the top side of the Rift. No Fear Wolves going to be missing the control ward in the bush. Let's see if Jushbox is going to be able to pick it up. I don't think so. That's going to be a heavy stream of information for Fever, spotting out a lot of the wolves on the bottom side of the map, but no objectives up just yet. The second Rift Herald going to be spawning in just a little bit, in the third dragon of the game in 2 minutes. Icarus, so far, No Fear Wolves playing much better as a group, beating Fever really at their own early game.
And that's not to say that Fever isn't getting anything for themselves. On the bottom side of the map, you still have this scaling Ezreal. You still have this Viego, who is scaling up in the mid lane for free here, as Skiz is looking to go aggressive one more time. I think it should be, again, another back away here, this time from the hands of Fever. But you have a couple of these scaling 80 carries in the game, MacDewey, on the side of Fever. They want to buy time for this Viego. They want to buy time for this Ezreal. It's really going to be about stopping the bleeding on the top side of the map, getting Stubby into a position where he's not getting constantly ganked and constantly killed by this melee duo on the top side of the map.
Epic Fail Guy has to be careful in this bottom lane. Jushbox, as he's been all game, it feels like, away from the bot lane and leaving this Aphelios all alone. Evil Zara with over a 20 CS lead, rip the cannon, destroyed to the turret, and that's going to be some much needed turret gold going over to this Ezreal. Skiz tanking the turret, not worried. No Fear Wolves able to trade up in the top lane.
And that's a really great heads up play by the side of Fever to push that in, understanding that Jushbox has left the bottom side again. So just go for the turret. You have the split push Fiora, who's been winning the top side of the map so hard, but picking up that first brick is just that much more gold for Evil Zara here. The scaling Ezreal will mean that they're going to give over this Rift Herald here, and it will be picked up once again by the side of No Fear Wolves, the second Shelly of the game. Going over to the team that doesn't have that 2 Herald average per game here. I like to see them combating this normal style of gameplay. I just can't believe that there's a team in the league that picks up 2 Heralds almost every single game. Like, I don't see that in solo queue anywhere. In order to get that in a competitive environment is insane to me.
Yeah, we have the next dragon, on the other hand, spawning in 5 seconds here. Fever tied 1-for-1 in the dragon department so far. That's going to be the hook missing from Rice every meal. Skiz is going to nope out of that engage. Cornstar does have teleport available to him on the top side of the map, Icarus.
We can really see here that Fever loves to contest these third dragons of the game. That's typically where you see your big first team fight here. It's going to go uncontested by No Fear Wolves, but that's where you normally see your really big first team fight of the game, is around that third dragon, because oftentimes that's where the dragon stacking starts for whichever team is able to pick up that successful team fight. However, that's not what No Fear Wolves are trying to do here. They're looking to scale. They're looking to get Cute Raichu and Epic Fail Guy into a couple of items a piece here, and this entire time, they're letting Cornstar take his advantages on the top side of the map. He's still shoving in the top side wave. He's still pressuring Stubby here, but it's going to be much harder now that that top side turret is gone, because I can expect that Stubby is going to be calling for help when Fiora is over pushing this lane, and it's going to mean that these mini moves are naturally pushing in towards Stubby. So this is where things get dicey for No Fear Wolves. How are they going to manage these sideways? How are they going to continue to find avenues for Cornstar to be aggressive in the split push?
All right, Icarus, hear me out. I want some feedback here from one of the Go Excellency analysts. I'm thinking you maybe just send the Fiora down to the bot lane to try to get that last outer turret. What do you think?
That's typically where I would start putting Cornstar here. Absolutely, Mac. You want to start putting them where these outer turrets are so that they can pick up that free extra gold here. However, that does leave some vulnerability for Cute Raichu, who is going to be the man who has to pick up this top side of the map. Stubby is not necessarily super weak here. He has that completed Frostfire Gauntlet. He has the Merc Treads as well. So when facing against Cute Raichu, he's actually at an advantage in comparison to Cornstar, because his Merc Treads were used in order to in order to deal with the CC that was brought on by Skiz. The MR would help so much. That's a double Shelly crash in the mid lane though, MacDewey.
Epic Fail Guy has his two ideal weapons, and with the Shurima turret active, No Fear Wolves grouping up together in the mid lane. That's going to be a hook connecting onto Skiz, dashing away 3 soldiers active for Cute Raichu, slicing and dicing through the wave in Cornstar. What we wanted, a hook on to Cute Raichu. Here's the engage coming in. Fever looking to make this fight work, but they can't get onto the backline. Providence is taken down, and No Fear Wolves are controlling the mid lane.
Red and white don't fight, MacDewey. You mentioned it before that fight even started there. The middle lane turret is going to go down. You got to back up, Fever. You can't continue to pressure this here. Okay. Instead, it's No Fear Wolves that backs off here. But you mentioned it, MacDewey. You can't be fighting here. You have the turn set up by the Azir. You have the best team fighting guns here for Epic Fail Guy. Why are we flashing you over the wall and looking for that death sentence and taking the hook as well by Rice every meal? I understand. You got the hook onto Cute Raichu. That's fine and dandy, but that is not the fight that you're willing to take here. You give over another turret and you give over another kill for that, and it's 5,000 gold in the lead here for the side of No Fear Wolves, MacDewey.
And I think importantly in game number 1, we saw Fever dominate because they had their ideal team composition. Stubby able to use the Call of the Forge God from a very long range to follow up on hooks, as well as the onslaught of shadows from Zongi's Hecarim. Now they're on champions that really can't engage that well, especially compared to those champions, right? It is just 2 completely different worlds. So when Rice every meal on the Thresh again, based on last game, we would have thought, that hook is 100% a dead Cute Raichu. But now in this game, especially with No Fear Wolves ahead, this composition is really tricky to execute now for Fever to try to come back in this one.
And this is kind of just classic Fever. We saw in their series last week that they will continuously smash their head against their opponent with or without the gold lead. This is really going back to that Berserker analogy that we made earlier, is because they will fight you no matter what. Rage or not, low health bars or not, they are just going to go at you, and they love to fight. And we see where that really hurts them in a lot of cases, because they should just be allowing for Ezreal to scale online. He is going to finally be at that 2-item power spike, the completed Mirror Mana, the Divine Sunder coming in here. You also have the completed Shield Bow for TL Providence. So your carries here do have a couple of items underneath their belts here, but is it strong enough?
Cornstar's dealing so much damage, destroying the Fever mid laner. That's going to be the cavalry coming in, the cherry on top. The whole breacher completed, Icarus. It's a split push on top laner for No Fear Wolves, and the pack has been playing so well around this Fiora pick.
This will mean the second dragon of the game going over to No Fear Wolves here. It's a 2-2 apiece on the dragons, but with this amount of pressure, with this amount of strength for the pact here, I want to see them continue to push themselves forward. When you're pushing to be the sole owner of the second place here in mid-league, you have to prove that you can take a game away with these advantages. We know Fever can do it. We've seen them run away in game one with all the gold lead that they're able to get. Now it is up to No Fear Wolves to prove to us that they have the potential to continue to take advantages or to continue to push their gold lead. And so far, it's looking really, really good.
And crazy enough, I'm looking at the Hull Breacher item for the, or Hull Breaker, pardon me. It's not like Banner of Command. It's kind of a similar effect on the cannon minions, but it's just kind of a passive effect. You know, it's not like an active, like you empower a minion. It's just automatically siege cannons, siege minions next to you are going to be like, hey man, I'm hype. I'm part of the boarding party. I'm ready to slice and dice through these turrets. And right now, No Fear Wolves with a 5,000 gold advantage heading into the mid game, feeling pretty good. But Epic Fail Guy on this Aphelios that you mentioned before, Icarus, needs some items, wants the Ruan's Hurricane at least to make a big impact on the team fights. Not quite there yet. I don't think Fever out of this game entirely just yet.
You know what my favorite part about the Hull Breaker item is, Mac Dewey? We could talk about the 177% gold efficiency. We could talk about how good it is for split pushing. We could talk about all of that. But the best part about the item is it gives your cannon minion a little pirate hat. Or at least it did on the PvE. We have a dive going on.
Yeah, no pirate hat in sight. Stubby health bar getting real low, avoiding the No Fear Wolf pirate raid. Now Cornstar level 14, but getting slowed down by the pillar. He's looking to lunge in, a good parry, but he's stuck in the middle of 5 Fever members. Shut down, going over to Evil Zara 3 minutes before the dragon, but Baron is still on the map.
I thought the Pact was going to come in strong in order to save him. It might be a continuation of this fight by Fever. I don't think they're going to be able to find...
Songy! What was that flash?
We're going to pretend that didn't happen for a second and just move on forward. That was a great shutdown by Fever here, but No Fear Wolves, oh God, every time I want to talk, they're just continuing this fight, Mac Dewey.
They sense it. They feel it in the force. Icarus, no time to waste. Rice every meal, missing the hook. And Skiz able to get out. But look at Epic Fail Guy. He is rolling with the red weapon. Feeling himself a little bit, trying to dish out. He went Phantom Dancer over the Ruan's Hurricane.
Huh. I'm really surprised that he didn't go for the Runan's Hurricane there. Typically, your second item that you build on the Aphelios so that you can get those AoE infernal shots coming through, so you can get the wide graviton as well for the massive 3-man route. But instead, going for that Phantom Dancer wants to have a little bit more dueling potential against the likes of this Trundle and Viego that are going to be trying to jump on top of him. I don't think that's necessarily his job to peel those two. It should be the job of his Sejuani and Azir. Re-engage coming out.
A lot of damage coming out. Epic Fail Guy. Hook's going to connect. Shreema turret is here. No Fear Wolves in the same position they were before, dominating the mid lane and looking for a big fight. Epic Fail Guy getting healed up real nicely. Got a big old shield from the red weapon Crescendum, and he's going to be feeling himself a little bit, but forced to back off. We see the Wolves are retreating back to base.
This entire time, Cornstar still on the bottom side of the map. He's going to be looking to pressure that bot side turret. I think he should be able to pick that up in just a second here. Sure enough, it goes down. It will mean that Cute Raichu is also able to capture that top side. We had a lot of fighting going on there, Mac Dewey, but nobody was really quite in a position to fully commit to that fight. As just always, there's somebody missing from one of these two teams here. And that just means we have a lot of cooldowns that are going to be down for this upcoming dragon fight in the next 50 seconds here. In particular, a couple of flashes not going to be available for TL Providence and Zongi on the side of Fever. On the other hand, though, you aren't going to have a flash available for Cornstar. Joshbox, I think his ultimate should be up and available, but maybe not for the very start of this fight. That Braum ultimate, the Glacial Fissure, is going to be massive when we're looking at this 5th dragon spawning here, and both of these teams are going to want to be contesting for that dragon soul point.
Epic Fail Guy going to lose the Severum Crescendum combo. Dragon spawning in 20 seconds. Cute Raichu heading down. Cornstar has got to be careful. He's going to try to teleport back to mid to avoid the gank from the 5-man squad up Fever. They want to fight front to back here, Icarus, for this upcoming dragon fight.
That teleport's fine as long as you stay safe here. This is going to be the first full 5-on-5. Where does it start, MacDewey? Who's the first person to get picked off here? Hexstack Flush, not going to be able to find much. The tensions are high. The hook lands. Who goes in?
The engage coming in, a huge unbreakable walls. The epic fail guy, a Shurima shuffle into the back line. No fear wolves are popping off by the dragon. They're picking up everyone. Evil Czar is taken down. Providence, the last man standing, and the substitute triple kill. Cornstar with the ace. No fear wolves. They take the fight.
The Shurima shuffle to end them all there, MacDewey. Cute Raichu shows up huge. He has his Zanya's finally in his pocket, but salute to you, sir, in the mid lane, sacrificing your life at the start of that play. He gets blown up before he has time to go golden, but he secures his team, the Dragon, and he's going to secure his team, the Baron, off of the back of that ace as well.
Hopefully that one was clipped. What an engage, what a team fight from the Wolves, showing no fear, pulling the trigger on the fight. Jushbox and Skiz thriving as frontliners for the rest of the team, making these front-to-back fights look so easy.
And this is all that early game advantages coming to an accumulation here for No Fear Wolves. They had the powerful solo laner who's been just applying pressure in all the side lanes, getting these freestanding gold objectives in these turrets. The Hull Breaker, it's very strong as an item, but coming in here, making sure that you're there for that team fight is the biggest contributing factor for any split pusher. And I love to see that Cornstar is willing to sacrifice the I'm going into a side lane mentality and staying there the rest of this game, and knows that these objectives are more important. Being there when you have that amount of gold in your pockets, when you are the person who's been fed up until this point, to be at that team fight despite optimizing your build towards split pushing is just a really great heads up play by No Fear Wolves and the side of Cornstar.
Now with Baron Nashor online, once again, the No Fear Wolves head into the mid lane. Skiz gonna try to avoid getting engaged on Zongi, gonna ultimate. Jushbox does get hooked here. That's gonna be a lot of CC. The Glacial Winter's Bite coming through. Cute Raichu looking to just push back and survive, but another hook connects. Rice every meal's finding everyone, but looking up at Fail Guy in the back line. He's untouchable. He's got a triple kill. Can he make it 5? He's just gonna back off. The No Fear Wolves looking to just stop the backs now. Epic Fail Guy still alive, making it work. He's got a quadra kill. Evil Zara finishing him off, but Icarus, look
in the base.
At the base. Cornstar with the whole breacher. That's 2 of them powered up, baby. There goes the second Nexus turret. The Nexus now, it's all up to Evil Zara trying to take him down, but that's gonna be the game. No Fear Wolves under 30 minutes. They bring it back in game 2.
MacDewey, that is the most insane end to this game that we could have possibly ever asked for. The split push special coming in from Cornstar. The Fiora that was so down in the last game of this series here comes back, brings it stronger than ever here with the split push duty. He knows when to show up for fights and he knows when not to show up for fights. He stays true in the top side with that Baron split push and he gets the inhibitor. He gets 3 cannon empowered minion waves crashing into this Nexus turret. An epic Fail Guy, the piece of resistance, the cherry on top with a extended quadra kill in that team fight in order to secure the split push victory here for No Fear Wolves. This is probably the most mind-shattering series we have had so far, and it's all for second place here. I can't believe it.
Now these 2 teams started off the series each 13-5, tied for second place. Now they're both 14-6. Bragging rights on the line, sole possession for second place on the line, and after some crazy adjustments come through for the No Fear Wolves, they're able to even up this Block 3 series. For a wonderful breakdown of the second match, we're going to throw it over to our lovely analyst desk, Cam and Gunjin. Take it away.
Absolutely. I believe Gunjin, you're actually not in OBS right now.
I was like, oh no, there's just no
Yeah, so,
okay, the void was talking for a second, but I'm back.
Gunjin just absolutely praising No Fear Wolves for that game 2 performance, as you should be, as that ending, the ending of the, like Icarus did mention, the elongated quadra kill into the split push of the century from Fiora, from Cornstar in that top lane. That new item, I believe Hullbreaker, really showing up there as he got the outer turret, the inhibitor tower, the inhibitor, both Nexus towers, and the Nexus all within 90 seconds.
Yeah, Cornstar was a big factor in game number 2, but it was the setup around him that was really impressive to see. In game number 1, Stubby was just abusing Cornstar in lane, was abusing him in team fights, and he was just really making it so hard for him to play. But in game number 2, they came in with the game plan. They said, we're going to give you the counter pick, the Fiora into the Cho'Gath matchup, but no, we're not just going to let you sit and make it so that Stubby can try and outplay. They said, oh god, no, we're going to drop the Rift Herald, we're going to constantly gank the Cho'Gath. They gave Stubby absolutely no space to get anything done, and that huge advantage that was in game number 1 was kind of just dissipated, and Cornstar was just really able to create a lot of pressure in the side lane. But again, I'm not biased, but No Fear Wolves is a team that I like. And in those team fights, while Cornstar was getting a lead, it was Cute Raichu who was making it to a lot of those plays. We saw that when Zongi and Rice would try to invade into the bot side, it was Cute Raichu that would make it to the play first, make the difference in those plays with those big Shurima shuffles. And he was really the person that got the game rolling. And I mean, all praises to him in that mid lane.
Absolutely. Hitting that, I do believe it was either 4 or 5 man
Yes.
Shurima
Oof.
shuffle on that third dragon for them, absolutely changing the entire pace of the game in favor of No Fear. As they did have a gold lead before that fight. I do believe it was around 3,000, but that fight in and of itself, it just absolutely changed the game as they got that soul point, they got the Baron, and then that led into the elongated quadra kill and the taking the entire base. So it was quite the snowball.
And as we're looking into game number 3, obviously we've seen the adjustments from the side of No Fear Wolves now focusing a little bit more on getting their top side ahead, and now Cute Raichu kind of having that pop-off performance. What adjustments do you see kind of Fever making to kind of rebound into game number 3, Cam?
I mean, we got to see them super hard pop off in game 1, and then game 2 kind of falling back as they don't have that same damage that they needed without having that super hard scaling Kale that you could just rely on to make sure that you scale into the late game. And once you hit that level 11 and especially level 16, you could basically guarantee yourself that win. And not having that in game 2 definitely showed as lacking that damage that they need to find the late game team fights. So they just weren't able to find anything in. So game 3, I am definitely hoping that they do draft a comp that has more damage, especially in late game where there was just not enough of it in game 2.
And I will say, I am an AD carry main, so I am biased, but in every game that Ezreal's been played, that side has lost.
Yes.
So I'm not saying Ezreal's the problem, but I'm just saying that, you know what? Mr. Ezreal might not be so good, and maybe other AD carries can be played. But I agree with you. In game number 1, they were able to get a lead with Evil Zara and Rice in the bot lane. And then Providence was that kind of safety net that said, if this goes late, which we're going to make sure that it does, we're just going to hyper scale up and take over. And in game number 2, they didn't have that, because in game number 2, they prioritized the Viego. They prioritized the Trundle counterpick into the Sejuani. But at a certain point, they just didn't have enough damage to really do anything. And they didn't have the damage to really burst through Sejuani, but the biggest player was that in those big team fights, a lot of those members were just running into the choke that was getting blasted by Braum CC, Sejuani CC, and then Azir is just in the backline just cleaving you before you're ever in range to ever hit Epic Fail Guy or Cute Raichu. So in game number 3, if they're going to go for this same style comp, I want them to maybe add a little bit more of a flank threat. Something like, obviously, we haven't seen this much from Stubby, but champs that he's played like maybe the Shen. Something where it can kind of become this flanker with the jungler. Maybe champs like the Akali can be played in the mid lane for Province, even though it's not a pick that he likes to play. Just something that can make it so that it's not these front-to-back team comps, because if they do end up going this front-to-back again, it feels like the No Fear Wolves comp in game number 2 was so much better suited to just cleave anything that tries to run into their backline.
Absolutely. And I do think it is kind of funny to note here how game one, the loser got the first two dragons and then not a single one after. And then game two, again, Fever finding the early first two dragons and then not being able to close out with that. Again, No Fear taking the next three. It's just a little bit of a trend that I'm noticing here. As yes, you noticed Ezreal hasn't won a game today. I'm also noticing the first two dragons haven't won a game today. So maybe those are somehow cursed.
So down the checklist. No,
Yes.
no Ezreal.
Don't take dragons.
No more dragons. Just don't even look at that dragon objective.
Yes.
Go for split push.
If we're going based on what is lost today,
no
just
split
based
push.
on this new patch, maybe they curse dragons.
And put Zongi back on Hecarim. I think we've nailed the checklist for game number 3. But before we get into game number 3, we actually have an interview that Icarus did with Cute Raichu, the pop-off player for game number 2, our MVP for game number 2, kind of talking about his role in No Fear Wolves and also his kind of identity and his thoughts on the mid-league as we're kind of transitioning into playoffs, as well as just his overall thoughts on the game.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Trying this for the second time here today. I have an interview here with one of the members of No Fear Wolves. Go ahead and introduce yourself, my man. Let's get that IGN, that role, and more importantly, I want to ask you, what is the team personality that you kind of bring to your group of guys behind the scenes?
Hello. My name is Cute Raichu. I'm the mid laner for No Fear Wolves, and personality-wise, I'm a little clown. I joke a lot. I laugh a lot. I trash.
I do want to go back and talk about that Fever matchup. You guys are going to be playing off against them actually later today. They're tied with you guys at 13-5. You guys are both sitting at the same score line, vying for that second place and for that playoff spot. How are you personally feeling coming into this series? Are you excited to be playing off against Fever? I know that they've got a bit of trash talkers on their own team here, but is this probably one of your more exciting matchups, or how are you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty good. I think hopefully Zongi's internet is a little bit better so that there's no like technical difficulties, because I don't. It sucks playing against people who are just like lagging and stuff, you know. But in general, I think it's gonna be pretty exciting. It's pretty important because regardless of how the next week matches go, if we do well this week, then we have a chance to solidify a playoff bye. But I know a couple of our teammates are looking forward to it. Epic in particular, he's very wanting to play against Evil Zara and quote unquote smash his face in. So
that's this is some pretty combative words coming in from Epic Fail Guy.
Yeah.
Interesting choice of words is what I'll leave that at. You did mention a little bit you guys are going to be looking for that playoff bye spot. Is there any particular team that you guys are hoping you get slotted against if you do end up getting that bye? Or is there any particular team that you guys are afraid of going in towards playoffs? Because those are going to be best of 5 series. Is there anyone that you don't necessarily want to fight off against? I would say like worst case, best case scenario from you.
Well, worst case scenario would be Death Cards. Because we played bad against them. We just didn't really respect them as much. So, I mean, it'd be better than it was last time, but that'd be worst case scenario. But best case scenario is obviously getting first and getting that 6 seed team, because the difference between the top 5 teams and the bottom 5 teams is pretty large right now. So,
yeah,
even that 5th to 6th bump is still pretty big right now.
It's really difficult to know which team is going to be in that sixth spot as well, because we do have a tie on the bottom half of the bracket there for that 6th place between Shadowblade Slash and Degenerates Reformed. I think right now are both tied up at 4 wins apiece. So they're also playing today, so it's going to be one of the other really exciting hype matches I eye on.